The Interference Archive is largely comprised of the personal collections of myself and Dara Greenwald. Both of us kind of grew up in and were involved in the late 80s, early 90s DIY punk movement, and through that got involved in different political issues and struggles. So from high school on, we both sort of just started collecting and amassing all of the things produced by the movements that we were a part of and the countercultures that we were a part of. In 2007, we started work on an exhibition called Signs of Change, Social Movement Cultures, 1960s to Now. In the act of working on that exhibition, we visited over a dozen archives. There was very few that had a sort of sensitivity to the cultural aspects of the material produced by movements. They are not particularly attuned to or motivated to catalog or organize or redisplay that information in a way that articulates or shows its connection to the movements that it came out of. It often sort of gets untethered from that context and becomes art done by individual artists, which is not how it was initially made. Between these two experiences of one, amassing a significant collection of material and seeing that there wasn't this kind of space that we desired or felt was necessary for people involved in movements to actually share and understand the culture they produce, sort of merged those two things, found a space, and sort of launched the archive. For me personally, the root of politics is people's relationships with each other. Politics isn't some abstract thing, but it's about who we know and how we know them and what we do together. As such, the spaces in which we share and occupy become tools or sort of the facilities for these relationships. It's hard to find and to build these shared spaces. So we're hoping that the archive, and it's very important to us that the archive becomes one of these social spaces where people from different movements and different struggles and different communities and cultures can cross paths, meet each other. It's rare to find spaces where that can happen, particularly outside of academia and outside of sort of more rarefied spaces that are harder for a broader sort of population to access. There doesn't need to be complex and evolved set of languages or understandings that are prerequisites for entering into the space. High school kids can come in and not have the level of intimidation that may come with going into some sort of major academic institution. That you have to walk past armed guards to get into the library, and you need to show an ID or have a letter from a professor or someone that makes it you're a legitimate researcher. I think in our view, everyone's a legitimate researcher. We're all sort of citizen researchers. It's important that we understand the history and the background of what we're doing so that we can do it better. I think there is this sort of abstract sense that this intersection of art and politics is a marginal thing. If you actually go to the source, if you actually look at the way that movements function, when they're successful, these things are inextricably linked. I guess I see my role, the role of the Interference Archive is to illuminate that intersection. Not to create it, it's there, but to make it visible. To get people to understand that it's at the core of both activities. It's at the core of organizing and mobilizing, and it's also at the core of producing culture. I want to see us more and more understand it through other lenses, through the kinds of intersections between art and politics that we create, that come from below rather than from above.